What is up, suppers? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. I am joined by the Jason Blevins. Find him on Twitter at JBlevinsNBA. What's up, Jason?
What a great day. It's a Friday morning. First thing in the morning, we're at the movie theater.
First thing,
and in the world.
We got a beer. Can't beat it. We saw Joker.
We had it.
It's gone now. Where'd it go, Jason?
Well, Fridays, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
That's right. We are at Exton Movie Tavern, my neck of the woods. Jason came all the way, beat traffic, fought school buses.
I didn't beat traffic. Traffic beat me. Let's face it. Let's be real.
So we just saw The Joker, with starring Joaquin Phoenix. We are going to give you our non-spoiler reaction to this. Ready to get started, man?
I am 100% ready to suit up.
Let's suit up.
And he did suit up at the end.
He did.
So what you lead us through, but I will say the backdrop of this whole thing is in late 70s, 1980s style Gotham. Gotham, not at all New York City, but definitely 1980 New York City is sort of the backdrop of this movie. How much do you know about like late 70s, early 80s New York City?
Not much, but I mean, that's the first thought was you see the Joker from the very beginning when he's staring at himself in the mirror, and he saw it in the trailer when he's pushing up his smile with a tear running down his face that he's making comments that it is bleak out there. Things are getting worse than ever. There are rats everywhere. It's dark from the beginning.
Yeah, I think people go to Times Square in New York now and they see this ultra electrified LED screens everywhere. There's Elmo dancing. It's like Disneyland version of a city. But in 1980, that was a very different place. Even when I was in high school, I remember that Times Square was full of like peep shows and like porn clubs. It was a very like dark place at one point before it got Disneyfied. And this film feels like a return to the gritty sort of side of DC Comics, sort of a counterbalance to the Disneyfied modern, maybe Marvel.
It's a really interesting choice of words, Disneyfied, because I think one of the strengths of this film was, if you harken back to when there was the DCEU with Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, the critics shat on those movies for being way too dark, way too bleak. That was a major criticism, and one of my biggest takeaways of this film is the balls of Warner Brothers letting Todd Phillips run his creative vision of the Joker, not getting in the way. We saw that a lot with Suicide Squad. We saw that a lot with Batman vs. Superman. Studios trying to get in the way of a creator's vision. And this Joker that we saw was something that I don't think we've seen before. My first take is kudos to Todd Phillips for having a vision of the Joker and absolutely nailing it. This was probably going to be the most talked about movie of the year. I think the Heath Ledger versus Joaquin Phoenix debate is definitely on the table right now. When I heard about this, first things first, when I heard about the Joker being an origin movie, I was scared. I was legit concerned because the Joker doesn't normally have an origin film. And what the movie did with the Joker was make you question everything you're watching in this movie. There were multiple times during this movie is that real? Is he hallucinating? This movie is more so about mental health, the shaming of mental health, and more than I ever expected. And this is a full-on Joker movie where nothing is as it seems, and it's something that I think will hold a lot of weight because moving forward with DC Comics, I thought that this is going to be a standalone. I'm not leaning that way anymore, man. I think there's an absolute path to putting this into the DCEU.
If I cared about that, I wouldn't have come to it.
Yeah, sure.
So
I care.
I view this movie solely in the context of itself and a character study. What I liked about it was brave enough to really dive into a character for 2+ hours. I'm guessing didn't feel like 2+ hours versus trying to sell merchandise after. It was really about the character much more than about the plot. I do think it gave enough to the universe that it's in and the context and the storylines that would enable the things you're talking about. I think it can absolutely enable that. But what I liked about it, and I think the big fear was that it would make excuses for a villain and sort of serve as an inspiration for people that might be close to the edge of snapping. And I think that it felt like it walked the fine line of respecting mental illness. It was respectful of people with mental illness without justifying any of the behaviors and any of the decisions. So I don't think it took a moralistic stance whatsoever, which is really what I find interesting about it. It was really much more of an exploration of the environment that the Joker grew up in and was raised in, and the illness that he had. And he's got a quote near the end, and again, this is not a spoiler, but he says, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like shit? I'll tell you what you get. You get what you deserve.
Yep. So
that is not a moralistic statement. That is an expression of someone who is terribly mentally ill and reaches a breaking point. In their mind, that statement makes sense to them. So, I really think it was really well done from that standpoint. It was less like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy than Big Rat Funk going in, and that's a good thing. I think it stands on its own as a movie in cinematic history.
Yeah. I thought for sure though, isn't it in King of Comedy when he kidnaps Murray, right? I thought for sure that was kind of coming down the line. It didn't happen, but there was definitely something major that happened that I didn't see coming. Did you see that coming at all?
Well, I don't want to get into it. I do like the fact that while it nods to all of these elements that it drew from, it doesn't steal from any of it. None of it is lazy. It all feels purposeful. So the references to The Dark Knight are purposeful. The references to King of Comedy is purposeful, but it doesn't just take it and drop it into this as like a stolen plot line. It's not like an allegorical tale, reskinned version of another movie. It really is. I think it really does stand on its own.
Yeah. A lot of the symbolism I found in this film was the use of the stairs. In multiple scenes in this film, you see Joaquin Phoenix, Arthur, walking up the steps. And that was basically, the way I perceived that, that was the climb. His life has been an uphill battle his entire life. He's literally said he hasn't had a happy day his entire life. And that was, every time you saw him kind of going up the steps, you just saw a beaten Arthur. And when you saw the reveal, you saw him coming down the stairs as Joker. And another really...
Descent into madness.
Exactly.
I think the quote is, I haven't been happy for 1 minute my entire fucking life. I used to think my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy. Think about what type of person could think in that way. There are a lot of people in life that think their lives are tragedies, but it really goes that next level when you can twist it into, but now I realize it's a comedy. It's dark stuff.
So I gotta ask you, first take, what's your impression? Who did Joker better, Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix?
Well, Heath Ledger was in a comic book movie.
Mm-hmm. This is not a comic. This is more of a horror movie, I thought, than any kind of comic movie.
It is. This movie is more like a 12 Monkeys or a Fight Club or something like that than anything that you could point to out of the DC or Marvel universe. Heath Ledger was fine. It was entertaining, and it was dark in its own way. But you know, it didn't. I don't hold that performance in the same regard as other all-time great acting performances in cinematic history. You know, he did a really good version of bringing real danger to a comic book character. Much better than I think had been done in previous iterations of Batman. But this is a true, you know, 2+ hour character study. I just wasn't even a character.
One of my other highlights of the film was the score. I thought it was a Hildur. I'm not even going to pronounce her name. It starts with a G. But some of her previous work was from The Revenant, Chernobyl, and Sicario, and I thought the score was just expertly crafted into this film. It's a very kind of dark and ominous score, but there were parts when Joker is transforming that the score really enhanced that transformation. Just a beautiful score.
Let me say one thing about that. I really love how they took songs that on the surface seem to be happy songs, and they really showed you the darkness underneath. And I always bring up things like Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. People that listen to it on the radio and don't listen to it very closely think that that's a very patriotic, happy song. But then when you really go through the lyrics, it's a pretty dark and gritty song. What they really showed was some of these songs like Smile, right? Some of these, Send in the Clowns. These are really sad songs that they were able to really accentuate that sadness and that darkness. I think that was really well done.
Really well done. Todd Phillips deserves a ton of credit here. Previous films include Old School and The Hangover. Wow. So yeah, this
two comedies. See, this was a comedy,
Yep.
not a tragedy. Comedy. The worst part about having a mental illness is people you would expect you to behave as if you don't. You know, the thing about Arthur in this movie is he is completely devoid of a sense of humor.
Right.
He doesn't know, if he goes to a comedy show, he doesn't know what's funny. He can look at it, he can intellectualize it. He wants so badly to be funny, and yet he internally has no sense of what's funny, where the punchlines are. It is such an interesting thing for someone to become obsessed with when really they have absolutely no aptitude.
what I think what they so expertly did in this movie is you think about Batman and then you think about the Joker, and they're one of the same, right? In the comics and in this movie, as a matter of fact. Because when I spoke to Kevin Conroy at the one, what's that called? The Wizarding World.
Yeah.
So
they're all just Comic Cons to me.
Yeah. Kevin Conroy's point was Batman is not the performance. The performance is Bruce Wayne. And what we see in Joker is that Arthur becoming the Joker, how do I say it? Joker is not the performance. Arthur was the performance. And I thought that was really interesting. And we see a lot of that mythos really in that last third act. Is there anything you didn't like about this movie?
What did I not like about the movie? You know, I really enjoyed it thoroughly. I think that it had just enough plot points that I think one of the great things about making a movie about mental illness and insanity is that you don't have to worry about certain plot holes, right? This is character studies in general don't suffer from the sort of required gymnastics to make every plot line fit. This was disjointed in the best possible way, and I just thought this was fantastic.
I thought the pacing died a little bit towards that second, third act. It got a little kind of slow for me, but overall, great movie. Do you want to give a review or a grade on this?
I want to say a couple more things. I want to say that this movie really was from the perspective of those at the bottom of the economic ladder. Income inequality was a huge theme and part of the backdrop here. And one of the things that Thomas Wayne said, to give that counterpoint, you know, we all think of heroes and villains, Batman being the hero, the superhero, saving and protecting the city from the Joker and his ilk, the forces of chaos. But here's something that Thomas Wayne says to me. Those of us who have made something of our lives will look on those who don't, who haven't, as nothing more than clowns. And I think that that's a really important thing to not overlook. This isn't just a study of an individual, it's also a study of society, Gotham, in which the division and the inequalities create the conditions where, you know, I'm not going to spoil the plot, but the conditions where a Joker could be stood up as an anti-hero. I think it's really important. So, your question was a review?
Yeah, what's
I think
your
I've
grade?
just given my review. Oh, a grade. What's the scale?
Let's do out of 10.
Out of 10. I think it's a solid 8.2 out of 10.
8.2. All right. I'll go around like 8.8. I think this is a movie that requires multiple viewings. What's real and what's not real. I think there's going to be plenty of scenes to be rewatched and characters to kind of revisit. There are several times that I thought maybe this character's not actually there, and I think.
Well, I think in some of those you were right.
Yeah, there was several times when I'm like, Jason, that's not real. But anyway, just a great movie. I give it a good 8.8. Worth seeing, 100% worth seeing. Full price admission. Any last comments?
No, go see it. I mean, I think this is the bar. I think they've set a bar on what you should expect from a movie. Very few explosions. You know, it's worth seeing in the theater on a big screen to see the nuance of the facial expressions. It's worth seeing in a dark place when there's nothing else around to distract you from the performances. This is not a movie that's going to try to keep your attention with special effects and with explosions, and that is the highest compliment I can give to a movie of this type.
Go see it. Thank you, Movie Tavern, for having us. For Jason, follow him on Twitter at JBlevins NBA. I'm Deibs, Mr. Crockpot. Thanks for watching, guys. Suit up.
I'm heading to training camp. Final day of training camp.
Let's do it.
Even right now.
Make sure you follow our YouTube channel. Tons of Sixers videos every single day, basically. And we're trying.
Sometimes too much.
There's never too much Sixers.
Sometimes a little too much.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys.